Well, that didn't take long. The New York Mets replaced Jacob DeGrom, going from a two-time Cy Young winner to a three-time Cy Young winner and the reigning AL Cy Young. Justin Verlander is a New York Met. We will discuss this on this special bonus edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Well, we all kind of thought this was coming, right? Jacob DeGrom signs with the Rangers. We basically imagine that it's either going to be Justin Verlander or Carlos Rodon coming to the Mets, and that's what we've been saying since the beginning of the offseason. They would get one of the three. They get Justin Verlander, and this really was the fit for the Mets in the sense that they're trying to win now. They're trying to win with a really high budget, but they also want to keep the door open to make other moves in the future. Carlos Rodon is reportedly seeking a 6-year deal. Jacob DeGrom essentially got one, a 5-year deal with an option. You now get Verlander, 2-year deal with a vesting option. Now let's start with the money he makes. It's very familiar, $86.66 million. That's $43.33 a year. Who else got that, you ask? Oh yeah, Max Scherzer did. 3 years, $130 million. So Scherzer gets an extra year, but they're getting paid the same thing over the next 2 years. Now, Scherzer also had an opt-out, so he could be a free agent after this season. Verlander has a player option that vests if he throws 140 innings pitched in 2024. So the risk on this deal, obviously you're still paying an exorbitant amount of money, $86.66 million in each of the next 2 years to two pitchers who, in Scherzer's case, in his late 30s, and Verlander's, he's in his 40s now. He'll turn 40 in February. A lot of money. But it's a 2-year deal, as opposed to DeGrom being 5 guaranteed years. So the risk is a lot less here, and you're getting a pitcher that just pitched to a sub-2 ERA through 195 innings between the regular season and the postseason. So he has proved more durable recently. I think there's still a big risk in the fact that he's now going into year 2 after that huge jump in innings following Tommy John. You know who else pitched a lot of innings after Tommy John? Matt Harvey did in a World Series run with the Mets. Year 2, year 3, not great. So I'm not saying that this is a completely risk-free, perfect signing. But for a Mets team that wanted to add another ace, this was the least risky move when it comes to the future of your franchise. DeGrom, too many years compared to this one. Rodon, same thing with a bad injury history as well. Making a trade to acquire that other ace was going to cost a lot of prospect capital. So you make this move. It fits. You bring two former teammates together, and now we're in this weird multiverse timeline where Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer are leading the Mets, which now it doesn't feel that crazy, but imagine saying that to a Mets fan in 2020, that this is what was going to happen in a few years. No one ever could have pictured this. So yes, I understand the risks involved. There's a lot of them, but the reward here outweighs the risk, and again, because it's a short-term deal, it's mitigated a bit. The only way that third-year option hurts the Mets is for $35 million if he pitches 140 innings in 2024. The only way that option hurts the Mets is if he's healthy the next 2 years, but his production falls off a cliff. And if that happens, it's 35 instead of 43. What Verlander's expecting is to pitch great the next 2 years and hit free agency again. The same thing Scherzer may be anticipated, baking in a player option to his contract. So very similar deals, and now you have these mercenary future Hall of Famers trying to win a ring, pitching for over $1 million per start, probably like $1.5 million per start, thanks to Uncle Stevie Cohen. I want to go through what we could see next in the coming days, so we're going to get to that in just a minute. Before we do, though, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. They got it all at BetOnline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. BetOnline is always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. We've been discussing on this show for some time now. Verlander, if not to the Astros, the Mets were the favorite. You could have got that line at plus 375, and you would be cashing in today, like maybe I did. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So what is next for the New York Mets? Well, Brandon Nimmo's still a free agent, so that is on the docket. He's in San Diego to meet with teams face-to-face. That's a sign that could happen during the winter meetings. Not sure if it would be to the Mets, though. We'll see. Other than that, they're interested in Jameson Taillon. They've tried to get a deal done there. Hasn't happened yet. We'll see if now they have Verlander, they're able to sign him or another free agent like this. But what the Mets have done so far is they've brought back Edwin Diaz. They had to. He's the anchor of that bullpen. And while you lost DeGrom, well, he only made 11 starts last year. You have a 101-win team that now gets the reigning Cy Young plugged into it. So in some respects, if they were to bring Nimmo back, your team's almost better. Now, you'd still have to build out a bullpen. That's important. And you have to replace the Chris Bassett and Taijuan Walker element to your rotation. But if they get a Kodai Senga, or they add one more of those mid-tier starters, if they bet on Carrasco to still be good in the 4 spot of that rotation, they get a number 3, and they trust that David Peters can be a great number 5 for them. Their rotation's set. They still have some depth with McGill, with Joey Lucchesi, and with Eleazar Hernandez in place. So I think the Mets are trending in the right direction. There's still work to be done, but getting Verlander, it gave them that anchor that the rotation needed alongside Scherzer. Getting Diaz gave them the anchor in the bullpen. Nimmo's the big question mark, but at this point, the Mets have been pretty successful in their offseason. We'll be discussing all of this more at length on tomorrow's full episode of Locked On Mets. We'll see if any other moves happen. Steve Cohen sometimes like to strike when the iron is hot, and this might not be the end of their moves on this Monday of the winter meetings. But anyway, that's going to be all for this edition of Locked On Mets. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan, and follow the show at Locked On Mets.